Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and we are back with another UFC Contrarian betting breakdown. And the way I approach the betting markets is not the way probably you should, or not the way a lot of experts approach the betting markets. What I do is I accept the fact that I'm not qualified or expert enough to be able to out-analyze the entirety of the betting public. In other words, you have a pretty liquid market here where you have a lot of experts and a lot of money being put into these betting markets. To presume that there's a great deal of inefficiency is just taking a leap of arrogance that I'm not willing to take. Now, again, not to say that there are not inefficiencies, and I'm not saying that you can't just identify bad lines, but I'm just not equipped to do that. And I would submit to you that most of you out there that think that you can spot bad lines just by just kind of, out analyzing everybody, I think that you should probably reassess that. I'm not saying that you can't, but most people that think they can just can't. I mean, people that say, oh, Jets are playing the Giants, the Jets are -3, it should be -4. I mean, come on, really? Maybe it's my just overall jaded experience in life, and also dealing with the stock market, which is one of the more efficiently priced mechanisms in the world, that I think this way, but that is the way I think. Now, when you're dealing with a market like the UFC, which is a combination of being liquid, but you do have a pretty sizable VIG on most of these bets, you have to be really, really good, okay, at identifying bad lines to, you know, to be plus EV. So what I think though is that it is possible to identify what lines are bad, not from your knowledge of the fight, but just from your knowledge of narratives and just from your knowledge of how the public behaves. And what's cool about the UFC is that you have this kind of, I mean, this usual like 1 week window where all of the betting experts just pile on and give their takes, and one feeds off of the other. And by the end of the week, you have a real sense of what everybody thinks. And one thing about the UFC is that people love to tell these stories about how fights are going to go. And almost always you have a consensus of sometimes what's specifically going to happen. But at the very least, you have a very binary outcome that people have settled on. Like either A is going to win this way or B is going to win that way. And forgetting that UFC is a sport that's just ripe with variance and ripe with chaos. And the narratives that are just most likely to happen, the stories that are easiest to tell, are almost always the overbet ones. So if all you can do is identify what is kind of the ultra cool, ultra easy story to tell about the fight, then you at least know what you can't bet. And I guess by definition, if there were no such thing as VIG, if you knew what you couldn't bet, then you could almost bet anything else at random. Okay. However, there is a VIG and all that kind of stuff. But that is literally the way that I approach UFC, and literally the way I approach most all betting markets is just get a sense for what the public is thinking, get a sense for what stories the public are telling, and just completely full faith them. Now, it helps to have a little bit of knowledge of what you think is going to happen in the fight. So over the years, I've developed a little bit of expertise on that. So you put those two together, and what you get is you get a fight card where you have a lot of, you have a pretty good sweat. You're betting stuff that nobody's betting, and you're almost always going to lose. Okay. But when you do win, you're usually hitting some pretty cool looking underdogs, and it always feels good when you're fading the public and you have stuff that they don't have. So it's definitely a fun way to play. And more important, it's a very useful skill to teach yourself of like how to analyze markets and how to analyze psychologies of markets. So as we go through these fights, you're going to hear a kind of a combination of actual analysis and sarcasm, and hopefully we can separate one from the other. But we're going to get through it. The next thing I will tell you is that um, uh, we are going to be putting these bets in, okay? And I'm not going to be able to put them in while I'm streaming just because they hate Zoom, but I'm going to save the bets at least, and I do promise you I'm going to put them in. So here are the rules, by the way. The rules are this. Number one, we are going to be betting one thing on every single fight. No, that's not the best money management system in the world, but we don't care. Second of all, we are going to be betting exactly one unit on every fight. And of course, that's not the best money management system in the world, but we don't care. Um, for us, one unit is going to be $180, 10 times high. Good luck. That's great. And again, I always think that it's healthy when someone is recommending stuff. Number one, I think it's healthy when they put their own stuff in, and number two, I do think it's healthy when they tell you the amounts. I know people like to talk in terms of units, and yes, one unit is different for one person than the other. That's why they do it that way. But I don't know. I just think it's healthy to put an actual dollar figure on it. So there's going to be 180 bet on each fight. The other thing is that we are going to presume, and this is the fun part, we are going to presume that we are going to lose every single non-main event bet so that when it comes down to the main event, we're going to have to bet something to get all our money back. So on a card like this, we have 14 fights. We're going to be betting the first 13. We're going to presume that we go 0-13, and then we're going to bet something that we're going to be getting at least 14-1 on, and that's always kind of fun. All right, so I do think that some of these fights, are a little easier to identify the easy bet and fade. Some of them are not so easy. Let's just get right to it. So, Chelsea Chandler versus Jocelyn Edwards. So there's a couple of kind of very common narratives going around. The Jocelyn Edwards is just, she is definitely the more accomplished striker. She's definitely also someone who's going to keep this fight at range if it's possible. And Jocelyn Edwards is going to cruise probably to an easy decision. So what can you not bet? Well, I mean, you can't bet Jocelyn Edwards by decision. Without even seeing what the odds are, we know that that's going to be overbet because that is just simply the easiest story to tell. So what you can do is pretty much anything else. You could play Chelsea Chandler, but I also find that betting just like the straight up underdog in women's fights is also, I don't want to say overbet, but people have this idea that women's fights are boring and then women's fights are unpredictable. And so you do get some like weird exposure to some of these underdogs in the betting market sometimes. So if you really want to be contrarian, we're going to do what we want to do here. And that would play Jocelyn Edwards inside the distance. So let's do that. Now we could get greedy and pick one or the other, by KO or submission, but we're not that good. So we're going to put winning method, I guess, and that would be Jocelyn Edwards by TKO or submission plus 450, and we'll do that for 180. Now again, we're going to ask us to log in, and we'll do that later. Next one, we have Timothy Kawamba versus Roberto Romero. To me, this is extraordinarily easy. Right? This is one of the easiest bets that you can make, and it's not anything real sexy or anything like that. But here's the thing: Roberto Romero, he came in on short notice and gave David Onama a really difficult first round, at least. And if you go through every single bit of content on the internet, you will see that, and you will hear that, and then you will hear the ultimate narrative. Boy, if he can do that on short notice, imagine what he could do with a big camp. And in addition to that, Timothy Kawamba has been getting a lot of crap for his most recent performance. So it seems it's extremely logical to play Roberto Romero here. Not to mention the fact that Roberto Romero is the first one of these guys we'll talk about, and we get this all the time. He just simply has that dog in him, people say. He'll fight for your money. That's another thing people like to say. And he's the aggressor, whatever that means, So you have all these things going for Romero. He's got the good loss against Onama, who's on this card, and that helps the public perception. You have Timothy Kawamba, who nobody likes, especially from his last fight or two. Okay, and yet it's like pick 'em. Like if you go through, you'll see like 95% of the people are taking Romero. So to me, this is like extraordinarily easy, and Timothy Kawamba is kind of like a contrarian lock at plus 110. Who's playing this? I go, nobody. So we're going to try it. Okay. Again, most of them we're going to do props, but some of them, again, it depends on where the lean is. Because if I knew that there was a way that Kwamba can win, I'd probably fade that too. But from what I've heard, there's no way he can win. So we're just going to play him to win, plus the 110. All right. All right. So this one, Pollyanna Viana versus Jacqueline Amarim. We're just going to have to lose this one, because this is actually just sort of a system play I have, especially with kind of low, not necessarily with low level fighters, but with decent, some high level fighters too. This is what we know for sure. Okay, that Jacqueline Amarim is an expert grappler. Okay, number two, she gets big submissions. Number three, Pollyanna Viana cannot stuff takedowns, and she doesn't mind playing off of her back. Okay, so it's basically going to be Jacqueline Amarim getting Pollyanna Viana to the mat and finishing her, either mostly by submission, because that's how she finishes all her fights. But system play is this: if we know that this fight is getting to the mat for sure, you know what we're going to do? We're going to play the other one by submission. Okay. And what because that's what happens when stuff gets on the mat. Weird stuff happens, reversals happen, arm bars happen, just all kinds of chaos happens when fights get to the mat for sure. And remember, Pollyanna doesn't mind playing off her back, and that's going to be for a reason. Okay. And one thing that we always like to confirm is when we play something ridiculous like this, that at least the fighter that we're playing by submission in this situation at least has a chance, has at least some kind of history where he or she can win by submission. Well, excuse me. Submission, submission, submission. All she does is finish people. Okay. The only thing that's a little annoying is that it's also possible she gets a KO. So are we getting too greedy by playing her by submission? 25-1. Let's go. What if we got her just by inside the distance? Maybe we're like a little too greedy here. Let's look at, oh man. So 25-1 by submission and 11-1 if you include the KO. You know what? Let's just include the KO. This is so weak. You know what we could do? If we didn't have this freaking rule, I would double up. I would go 90 on Pollyanna Viana by, let's do it. We'll cheat a little bit. So we're going to play Pollyanna Viana by just inside the distance, and then we'll double up on the submission. Good luck with that. All right. All right, next one. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Simon. There was quite a bit of juice on Wellmaker coming into this fight, and when you put that on top of Cameron Simon's last performance, you just can't help but want to play Wellmaker here. Simon just got crumbled in his last performance, and I was worried that this was going to be either too cutesy, all right, to take Simon. But then I even heard more bad stuff about Simon, being that even in his wins, he was against like the worst in the division. So more narrative, more narrative, more narrative. And we're just going to take the shot. So I don't know if again, this is too chalky, but whatever. I'm going to take the Cameron Simon side. If I really wanted to be funky about it, I would play him inside the distance. So let's think about this. Because Wellmaker is the one that has all the power. So we should play Simon. Yeah, let's do that. That's just as easy. So Simon inside the distance. Let's see, winning method. What is he, plus 500, something like that? I'm just guessing. Plus 400. That's fine. So Simon inside for 180. So we're doing well, right? We're doing well in setting ourselves up for being 0-13, because that's the goal, right? We want to be 0-13 so that we can play that 14-1 shot and you know and get out after the last fight at 2 o'clock in the morning. All right. Damon Blackshear versus Alatang Haley. Damon Blackshear basically has this wherever this fight goes. Kind of low volume, but he gets this fight to the mat, and he's just got the better. He's just got the better wrestling. Excuse me, he's just got the better grappling, so he's just going to cruise. So what does that mean? What it means is you certainly cannot play him by submission, and you certainly can't play him by decision. All right, because the low volume and plus the grappling upside, those are the two ways that guys like this always win, according to people. Right? So you can't bet that. So all you could either do is play something on the Alatang Haley side, or you could play Damon Blackshear by knockout. We're not playing Damon Blackshear by knockout because he never knocks anybody out. So we're going to play something on the Haley side. Now, I was thinking of taking a shot at one of these at the system play, okay, and that being, if we know this fight's getting to the mat, okay, then why don't we just play the one we want to fade or the underdog by submission? Problem is that Highly doesn't submit anybody. So all we can do really is either play Highly inside the distance. We can certainly do that. And I think that's probably better than Highly by decision. I just don't think there's many variations where, well, he could. I mean, Highly could actually out wrestle Blackshear. That's definitely a possibility. But I think Highly inside the distance is what we're supposed to do here. But if we do that, then we're putting the submission in play, and I don't think he's ever submitted anybody. So let's take a look. So it's either going to be Highly inside the distance or Highly by knockout. If Highly has actually submitted somebody, we'll include that one in there, but and we'll do just inside the distance. But if not, we'll just play him by KO. Let's see. Decision. There's a TKO, split decision, TKO, KO, decision, KO. All right, so we're going to do that. He does have one submission. That was like 100 years ago. So we are going to play, to continue the run of being 0-13, Highly by knockout plus 11-1. Let's go. Now, we haven't been around for a while, so we are really firing. Let's see. Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Okay. Very easy fight to break down. So very easy fight to break down, so means it's a very easy fight to identify who people are playing. So Chris Gutierrez, very boring leg kick dude, okay? John Castaneda, a little more pressure, and he could get takedowns. The only thing that we know for sure is that this fight is going the distance. So what we have to do is just bet this fight to not go the distance. I mean, I think it's just literally as easy as that. If we really wanted to get weird, we could play maybe like Castaneda by knockout or something like that, because no one's playing that. But I think it's contrarian enough just to put this, have this fight go inside the inside the distance. So let's just see. We could go under 1.5. Ooh, under 1.5 plus 500. That's a little ridiculous. Let's go fight. Does not go the distance. Boy, they really, it's like so ridiculous. How do you win? How does anybody win with these spreads? Minus 350 versus plus 250. At least when we take like a winning method, we could delude ourselves into thinking that the line's not that terrible. But when you're faced with the yes and the no on both sides, now you want that, okay, as the option, but now you see for sure how terrible your bet probably is. Boy, oh boy. I mean, we could just play Castaneda by knockout, and that's like literally no chance to win. But that's fine. Let's just do this one, plus 250 inside the distance. As they say, it's such a terrible bet, it just might win. All right, moving on, we have Evan Elder versus Gage Young. Boy, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. You have Evan Elder, who it's weird. Everybody that's analyzing this fight believes that Evan Elder just really has this dude covered, and yet Gage Young just continues to stay very, very, very trim in the betting markets. He's when it just came out at -200 +170. It was late notice replacement. I just figured this was a bad line. It was just going to steam to like 400 or something like that. But it's held, man. It just held, and I think you just kind of have to respect that and just take the Gage Young side. I have no idea how he's going to win this on short notice. I really don't, but we're going to try it anyway. So Gage Young plus the 170 for 180. Okay, moving on. Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick. And yeah, we know what we're going to do here. Okay. There are a couple of things we could do. Here's the thing. We know for sure the following is going to happen. Either Matt Schnell is going to knock Jimmy Flick out, or Jimmy Flick is going to submit Matt Schnell. That's like the only possible thing that could happen according to public lore. And whether that's true or not, the fact is that because that's the easy story to tell, that those two things are just not bettable. Okay, you cannot bet Schnell by knockout, and you cannot bet Flick by submission. If you're going to bet anybody by decision, the only thing I've heard is that maybe Schnell can just kind of keep him on the feet and win an easy decision. So that you really can't bet. So the only thing you can really do here is, well, there are three things. Number one, you could play Flick by decision, okay, if you have any hope that can happen. Or you can play Matt Schnell by submission, and we could be thematic about this, right? That, if this fight can get to the mat, which you would think Flick would want to get to the mat, then stuff could happen and Schnell could get the sub. The other thing that you could play, which I think I want to do, and this is kind of gross, is you could play Flick by knockout. And the reason why that could actually work is that if Flick does get a takedown somehow, it's possible he just ground and pounds it. It's very possible. Remember, Schnell is somewhat chinny. That's what they've been saying. But no one's giving Flick the opportunity to get a KO. So we're going to do it. Let's take the shot. We're going to play, let's get this fight up here, Jimmy Flick by KO plus 1,200. God help us. It's all good. We're going to get it back. We're going to get it back in the main event. All right? Don't worry about it. All right. Ikram Aliaskarov versus Andre Muniz. I'll tell you, early in the week, I really wanted to make a case for this. And I think I'm just going to kind of have to do it. Andre Muniz is washed, they said. He's got no chin. He's got no heart. He ain't got no way to win. So you know what that means? It means you'll probably have to bet him. Aliaskarov is a better wrestler. He's got more punching power. And I hate to put it this way, but he's only minus 520. It's not like he's minus 20, 1,000 here. I mean, it's not like he's like it's not like the betting markets think he's never winning. He's never losing. So I still think the Andre Muniz has something. And we know what's going to happen if Aliaskarov tries to get to the mat with Muniz. So we're going to have to try it. We're going to have to play Muniz by sub and lose. It's only plus 800. I mean, how do you play this? Guy with hashtag no heart. Well, find out. All right. Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dalby. Here's another one, which we're pretty sure there's a couple of ways this fight can go, but no more than that. I mean, this is, even though we have fighters that are just going nonstop after each other, whatever it is, only two ways this fight can go. Number one is Randy Brown by decision, because that's just what he does. You know, he's got a big striking advantage, he's got a speed advantage. Nicholas Dalby's 40, the whole thing. Randy Brown will keep him at bay, win an easy decision. Dalby could win a couple of ways. Like, number one, he could win a decision, right? Because he does have pretty good cardio for a 40-year-old, right? And he could also get that second or third round KO like he did over Gabriel Bonfim. Again, people still remember that. So those things are probably unplayable. And certainly, I think Dalby even himself is unplayable because he's just recently cast as the underdog. I think what you have to do here is just play Randy Brown inside the distance. It's just really the only thing you can play and be even somewhat contrarian. So let's just do that. Winning method, Randy Brown. Well, I'll tell you, I would play him by submission if there was a single submission win on his board. Let's take a look at that. I mean, if that's the case, there's no way. He's got no subs, right? No, it's literally, he's got one sub back in 2021. He got a couple of these. Look at this. Boy, can we do this? This is what we're going to say. Okay, I'll tell you what. If Nicholas Dalby has been subbed, we're going to take the shot at Randy Brown by sub. How about that? Otherwise, you're just going to play Randy, or maybe we'll just include the sub in the bet and just play him inside the distance instead of by knockout, which is really what you're supposed to do. But okay, let's take a look at Dalby's record here. Let's see, has he been subbed? No, he fought off all the Renat stuff too. Tim Means. He did get subbed by Jesse Ronson, rear naked choke. Just the one time, though. Yeah, we'll just play Randy Brown inside the distance. That'll be nice and easy. Winning method, Randy Brown by TKO or sub plus 250. That's going to be good enough. All right. Okay, moving on. Michel Pereira versus Abus Magomedov. So Abus, the gas can, they've been saying, okay? He has been, he had about 4 minutes of cardio with, what's his name? 4 minutes of cardio with Sean Strickland. Then he just got rolled, okay? And then they're even giving him some, throwing shade on him his last fight because, you know what? He was getting, he was doing fine against Pereira. And then Pereira came back on him. So he decided that it was time for him to wrestle. And he got 4 takedowns and he secured the win. But they were saying he was not particularly, didn't have a lot of gas, but I don't know about that. And then you have Michel Pereira, and I was originally thinking that you'd get a lot of, recency bias against him because he just got trashed by Fluffy Hernandez. But it's actually been the reverse. People are saying that his cardio is fine. The problem is that he was just against Fluffy Hernandez. And they completely just threw the fight out. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's fine if you had a tough matchup, but you can't just throw the fight out like that. So I think this could be sort of more of same. So I do like the Magomedov side. I think it's going to probably go the same way. I think that Magomedov is going to take over. And the problem is I can't play him by sub because Pereira just fended off all of the freaking Fluffy sub attempts. And if he's going to fend all those, he's just not going to let Magomedov sub him in only 3 rounds. So we'll just play him by just to win, I guess. Plus the 120. Maybe it's a little wimpy, but that's what. But here's another one, by the way. I mean, if you poll like all the touts and whatever, it's like all Pereira, like all of the action. All right, David Onama versus Giga Chikadze. So here's what we got. We got David Onama. This is the narrative. If he wants to, he could take Giga Chikadze down Literally it will, okay? And either cruise to a decision or even get, maybe even a submission or whatever it is. Um, if he decides to stay on the feet, then he's in Giga's world, and then it's a little bit fishy, okay? So, so what can't you do? I mean, you really can't play Onama by submission, okay? Because that's based on his takedowns. Can't really play him by decision either, okay? The only thing you can really do is play him by knockout, okay? Uh, because again, now you're in Giga's world, and that's apparently where Onama does not want to go, but I don't know about this. So you could either play Onama by knockout or something on the Jakazi side. The problem is I just don't know what to do about which way I would play Jakazi. Because I have heard some people talk about him as a decent underdog here, and people are unsure whether he would end up winning by decision or even get a flash KO or something like that. So we're just going to play Onama by knockout. I think that's probably the wise thing to do here. So Onama by knockout is plus 300. This is good enough. And remember, he could win by knockout via ground and pound, which would be just as good. You know? Hold on a second. I'm just going to pause for just a sec. Okay, so sorry about that. So this Onama by KO. I mean, I like this one a lot. All right. Okay, Anthony Smith versus Zhang Minyang. Um, I unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, I am hearing a little bit of underdog love for Anthony Smith here because unfortunately this has sort of happened before. Like he came in a big underdog to Victor Petrino, this big, enormous guy, and ended up just catching him in a guillotine. So there's not really too much value in just taking a shot with Anthony Smith. So what we're going to have to do is play the only thing that has no chance to win, and that would be the Zhang Minyang by decision. If anything, what people are saying is that Smith is just done, and then unless he snatches something up, he's just going to get rolled. So we will take Zhang Minyang by decision here as the contrarian play, plus 700, and let's go with that. We like that. So again, are we there yet? Are we 0-13? I think we might be. I think we're finally at 0-13. So let's review, remember from Family Feud at the end. Let's review the terrible selections that our previous family member has given us. Jocelyn Edwards, who never finishes anybody, who is this obviously is going to be clearly keeping his fight at range by TKO or submission. Well, we have it plus 450. Timothy Kwamba, terrible last fight, and Romero with the big performance in a loss angle against Onama. We'll take Kwamba plus the 110. Viana by inside the distance plus 1100. We're going to do 90 of that and 90 of the straight Poly Viana by sub for reasons mentioned earlier. So that's 0 for 3. It's technically 0 for 4, but we'll call that 0 for 3 fights. Simon against the guy with all the power. We'll play him inside the distance. That's throwing money in the trash can. Not as badly as throwing in the trash can. The money is not as bad of a trash can throw as Alatane Haley by TKO. You kidding me? That's gone, plus 1100. Gutierrez Castaneda, clearly the most boring fight on the card. We'll play that inside the distance. Gage Young, this money is held for some reason. We're going to try it, plus the 170. Jimmy Flick, the only way he could possibly win is by sub. So we'll play him by TKO, no problem. Plus 1,200. Andre Muniz, no heart, no chin, no nothing. So no cash, but we have plus 800. Randy Brown, easy decision. That happens, we lose because we have him inside the distance. Abus Magomedov, bad cardio. Pereira, we're going to throw out his last fight because he was against Fluffy. Well, I guess we lose only plus 120 when 90% of the people are taking Pereira. What's wrong with us? David Onama puts on the wrestling shoes, will get the sub. Otherwise, probably a boring decision. So we'll play him by KO, plus 300. And then Zhang Minyang, I mean, he's either good, in which case he knocks out Anthony Smith in the first round, or he's not good, in which he's probably live to lose. So we will just play him by decision plus 700. So seeing as we're 0-13, now we are going to be in the last fight, which is Ian Machado Gary versus Carlos Prates. Okay, so there are some very easy ways to get 14-1 here, I think. Okay, because we have a completely binary fight according to the experts. Carlos Prates, if he keeps this on the feet, he will KO Ian Machado Gary. Okay, he will. If Ian Machado Gary can get this fight to the mat, then Ian Machado Gary can win either by sub or by a decision. So all three of those things you can't play. The good news is that everything else is just so unlikely that I imagine we're going to get a good enough price on it. So what can you play? Well, either of these results are just so awesome if you can actually have them come in. Who's going to have Ian Gary by knockout? That's what I want to know. And secondly, and this is really gross. Well, less gross is who's going to have Prates by decision. I think that's possible. If that's actually 14-1, we're going to do it, but there's no way that's 14. Who's going to have Prates by sub? I mean, nobody, right? Let's take a look at some of these odds. See what we got here. Because if we can't get any of those, we'll have to go for a specific round. So you look at Machado by KO. Oh my God, what a terrible line. I never thought that he would be so low. Plus only 350 by KO? I mean, that's like such a bad line. It's probably going to win. But if we did that, we have to pick a particular round. We're not doing it. Boy, Machado by sub is plus 600? That is such an amazing price. We might have to try this. I mean, we can't find. We're going to pull up. We're going to pull up the props in a second. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Should we say in advance? All right. So if we get Prates by sub at over 14-1, we'll probably bet it. But if not, we're going to pick a round for Machado by sub. Let's take a look. Yeah, you do get Prates by sub at plus 1,800. So here's the problem. Problem is that we have to know whether Prates has subbed anybody before. Let's take a look. First, let's just take a look. I'm gonna tell you why it's not gonna matter in a second. I mean, he's just a striker, right? KO, nothing but KOs. Oh, what's that? Oh, really? Okay. So this is what I will submit to you. Okay, two things. All we're hearing all week is about how awesome the fighting nerds are, right? His camp, to the point where I'm just kind of sick of it. Okay. However, if this camp is so good, you know what they're going to be doing? They're going to be training him for grappling, right? He's got the big edge as far as striking goes. They don't need to do anything. So they're going to probably be training him for this. And if the fighting nerds are that nerdy, they'll come up with something. And I totally see this happen, right? The other thing, again, this is not exactly the same, but I just wanted to see if I can find this. I want to look at. I search for fighters here. This is what I want to search for. Okay? I want to search for Gene Silva. Okay. And we're going to look at his results. So Gene Silva is from where? Is from where? Fighting Nerds? Is that true? In his last fight, who was he fighting? Bryce Mitchell. Right? What was Bryce Mitchell? Someone who needed to do what? Grapple to win. That was his path to victory. And what happened? And what happened? So we are going to take Prates by sub plus 180 to get all of our money back. Let's go. All right, so again, I am going to put all these in once I log off, and that's going to do it. Good luck, everybody.